Hey folks, my name is Jim Aspel. I'm a board certified workers' compensation attorney in Farmington, Connecticut. And I want to talk to you today about 31308 small a benefits that are available to you in a Connecticut workers' compensation case. These benefits, which are typically called 308A, are a common source of misunderstanding. So the first thing I want to point out is that there are two 31308As in the Connecticut General Statutes. The first one is 31308 Section A, which has to do with temporary partial benefits before you reach maximum medical improvement. That's not what we're talking about today. I'm talking about a completely separate statutory section called 31-308 small a, and that's typically known as Postspecific 308A. So a couple of things we need to understand right off the bat. First of all, what do I mean by post-specific? In workers' compensation parlance in the state of Connecticut, when somebody is talking about specific, they're basically talking about your permanent partial disability rating. So in other words, the way I like to look at it is that's the specific level of disability that you've been given by your doctor to compensate you for your injury. I don't know if that's right or not, but that's how I like to think about it, and it served me well for over 30 years. So the 31308A that I'm talking about is post-specific temporary partial benefits. And what this is a discretionary benefit to compensate you for a loss of earning capacity that you may have as a result of your injury after your permanent partial disability benefits have been paid in full. So, for example, if you've been left with a 10% permanent partial disability rating to your back as a result of your injury, that 10%, that's your specific rating, okay? You're going to get what's called a specific voluntary agreement. It's going to set forth the number of weeks that you're entitled to as a result of that percentage, and that's going to be paid to you out in a number of weeks in most cases. Now, typically when that permanent partial disability award has been paid in full, that's the end of the road for your case unless you become totally disabled or have some sort of re-aggravation or relapse, as we like to say, that entitles you to go back on temporary total or temporary partial, whatever may happen. But typically, once that permanency is paid in full, that's the end of the road. That's where 31308A comes in. There are some instances where after your injury, you're unable to work at all, okay? And you've been left with this loss of earning capacity. Maybe your injury was career-ending. You were a car mechanic and you can no longer do overhead work. Whatever it happens to be, you're not working anymore and you need some additional relief. Now, back in the good old days, and by that I mean before 1995 when they completely gutted the Workers' Compensation Act in Connecticut, you used to be entitled to unlimited 308A benefits. So in other words, the Workers' Compensation Commissioner, who's now referred to as a Workers' Compensation Administrative Law Judge, could order the insurance company for your employer to pay you weekly checks indefinitely after your PPD, your specific award, was paid. Those again were the good old days, and those are long gone. Towards the latter part of the 1990s, early part of the 2000s, the convention became that the 31308A award that you were entitled to was limited, and it was limited to the number of weeks that equated to your permanent partial disability award. This was what was referred to as the Frankel Rule, and those of us who have been around a long time are familiar with former Commissioner Frankel. He's since passed away. But he was the one that, before it was codified in the statutes, he used to impose that rule in his proceedings. So, for example, if you have a 10% permanent partial disability to the back, you're entitled to 37.4 weeks of PPD benefits, of specific benefits. In the old days, you could get unlimited 308A after that PPD award had been paid in full. After the Frankel Rule went into effect, you were limited. You were limited to that 37.4 weeks that you got for your permanency award. And that has since been codified in statute, and that's the hard and fast rule. So as bad as you may be as a result of your work-related injury, your 31308A, as we sit here today, is now capped, and it can never be paid to you at a rate or for a number of weeks that exceed the number of weeks that you were paid permanent partial disability. So that's number one. Number two, the rate at which your the rate at which your 31308A benefit is paid to you is going to be, or likelihood is going to be, different than the rate that your other benefits were paid to. Your 31308A rate is a figure that the commissioner, the administrative law judge, discerns. So in other words, he looks into his crystal ball and says, I believe that you have a $400 a week earning capacity. And typically this is done on an informal basis. If your compensation rate, your base compensation rate was, for example, $700, the commissioner, looking into his or her balls, decides you have an earning capacity of $400, then your 308A rate is going to be $300. That's the difference between the $700 comp rate and the rate that the administrative law judge has determined equates to your earning capacity. I throw $400 a week out there as a completely random figure. The administrative law judge could say, well, you have an earning capacity of $600 a week. Likewise, they could say you have an earning capacity of $100 a week. And that's where, if you've got a comp lawyer, we're going to argue for that higher rate so that you can get the maximum benefit out of your 308A award. Typically, 308A awards are paid on orders, so you have to request a hearing with the commissioner and ask for what they call a 308A order, and then that the judge, the administrative law judge, when I say commissioner, I'm using commissioner and administrative law judge interchangeably. They issue a weekly order, and the insurance company then pays that out. If it's not the full amount of 308A you may be eligible for, then you can go back and request a second order or a third order or whatever it happens to be until your eligibility is expired. Now, the other thing that's important to know about 308A, and this is, it applies to a lot of people, is that you're only eligible for it if you are in the state of Connecticut, if you're ready, willing, and able to work in the state of Connecticut. So if you're considering relocating out of state and you're considering settling your workers' compensation case, or leaving it open for that matter, keep in mind that if you go down to Florida or North Carolina or wherever you happen to go, if you're no longer here, your eligibility for that 308A award no longer exists. So if settlement is something that you're contemplating, you probably want to close out your workers' comp case before you move out of state, because if you wait, then your eligibility for that 308A award is out the window. Okay? It's a very, very confusing topic, and I'm not sure if I made it any clearer or not. I certainly hope I did. But if it's something that you have a question about, if you think you may be entitled to a 308A order, or you don't know about a 308A order and you have general questions about it, just give us a shout. We're in Farmington, and I'm happy to help you. We represent injured people all across the state. Our phone number is 860-523-8783. We have a website, www.ctworkinjurylawyer.com. You can take a look at that. There's pages and pages of information on temporary partial benefits, on all sorts of things that you might find helpful if you have a Connecticut workers' compensation case. If you found this video helpful, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. And as always, I would invite you to subscribe to the channel. If you have any interest in Connecticut workers' compensation, if you're an injured worker, if you're just curious, whatever it happens to be, subscribe to the channel. We do release these videos with some frequency and on a variety of a number of workers' compensation topics. If you have any comments, please leave them below and I'll respond to them as I can. If you have anything you'd like me to address specifically, feel free to drop that in the comments as well. Shoot us a DM, doesn't matter. We'll get back to you as quickly as I spot the message, and we'll go from there. Okay? Again, I do hope that you found this slightly helpful, and if you have any questions, do give us a call. Okay? Have a great day.